Um, Thank you very much for inviting me, and I will be speaking about my homeland, and I will be speaking about momentum. I think you might recognize I am the only boy in that picture, and instead of looking out to look at these very beautiful ladies around me, I'm looking inside my magical box. And what I'm going to tell you, what I have seen inside that box so far. I come from the southern part of Syria, where the great Syrian revolution in the 1920s started. But when the French left, they left many unexploded bombs. And my uncle, I never met, he used to find these bombs, dismantle them, and make spoons out of them. So imagine this very interesting conversation between an object of destruction, an object of nurture. And I would like you to keep this image in your head because I would like to come back to it. He was inspired by my grandmother, and she used to collect our old clothes, and she used to make very beautiful blanket out of them so we could survive the cold weather in the southern part of Syria. So again, look at the way how she is using objects and transfer their meaning to something totally different. So these two characters, how much they influenced my life without them knowing that. I studied painting in Damascus, and I studied architecture in St. Petersburg, and I studied theater design in Wimbledon, in London. And I live and work in Cambridge for the last 27 years. And I have done many, many, many exhibitions, and at one stage, I really, being in Cambridge, you have to turn to books and papers, being inspired by my uncle and my grandmother. So this is a project I have done in 2003. As the starting point for this project was the Iraqi or the invasion of Iraq. And this piece currently in the British Museum. It's called Sound Palimpsest, made out of found paper and found X-rays. The British Museum exhibited this piece a few times, once in 2009 as part of the Iraq Past Speaks to its present, to the present, and the second exhibition was exhibited at the Modern Syrian Art, and this was 2011. And I just would like to emphasize it's 2011. It is when the Syrian uprising started. I was invited to give a present or presentation at that exhibition. And at the end of the presentation, somebody asked me, "Are you doing anything about Syria?" I said, "No." That question was such an important question, I really could not understand it. I could not take it. I could not take the news to my studio. It was such a very difficult question to deal with. But I thought I would like to take this question and work with it. And that question created a fantastic momentum in my life for the last few years. And it invited me to look backwards to my previous work and to look forward, to start digging, to start excavating. So this is what I have done. It is I believe it's 2012. I took the map of old Damascus, and this is my first attempt to deal with this idea of the Syrian crisis. And 1 year later, I did this one, which is 2013, totally different Damascus. Then, in 2013, it was my first attempt to make an exhibition relating to Syria called Excavating the Present. So I took X-ray images made this skin out of them. They are photograms, and I took them to the dark room, and I made another photograms out of them. Therefore, it is excavation and excavating the present specific. And I said I am reflecting back to my past pieces. This is a piece I have done in 2003 in relation to the invasion of Iraq. And I took my son's tricycle. While he was looking away, I squashed it. And this is what I have done. And it was quite a very interesting piece to have it actually in this exhibition, recent exhibition in Art Exchange. It was actually in the window for 3 different shows of this exhibition called Movement of the People. So part 1, part 2, part 3, and always in the window there is this piece, a squashed bicycle, tricycle, movement of the people. You could see the message where it's coming from, the connection between the two. Now, talking about childhood and my child, when I went to visit my culture in 2004, I have been talking to my mother about my 2 boys, and she was insisting that they should really learn Arabic. But she had only 1 month of schooling, and that 1 month of schooling gave her a great insight to this idea of drawing letters. So this is her drawing of letters, trying to teach my 2 boys the Arabic writing, the Arabic alphabet, and the Arabic numbers. But even if you read Arabic, you could see how much she is really struggling to articulate her thoughts with her 1 month of schooling. So I really like the idea that is with her very simple tools, she's trying to articulate a feeling. So I took this idea and I made it as a starting point for a few of my pieces. So the first one, a piece called Counting and Alphabetizing. It's actually, this is a fragment of a piece which is about 18 meters long, made out of found object, of course. So the second one, it is called After Image. So this piece particularly, which was really quite interesting, the way I have done it, it is, I am right-handed, by the way. I took this idea of writing with my wrong hand and upside down. So again, this is the child for me, this is the adult. I am visiting my childhood. I'm trying to be the primitive. I'm trying to put myself in the position of my mother's way of articulating her feelings. And in my culture, like in many cultures, when somebody dies, you put their pictures on the walls and you put a mourning ribbon. So this is an installation to do with this people that they never had any chance to be mourned, if you like, by their relatives, because there is so many people died and nobody knew that they are dead. So this is a piece that's, again, traveled to different locations and had different meaning, but they are all made out of found books. Being in Cambridge, you have many book binders, and they throw many of these rubbish, and I collect their rubbish to make my art out of. When I exhibited it in totally different location in a church in Kettle's Yard, the location started to give new meaning to this piece. But of course, I'm really interested in seeing my culture from distance. So this is a calligraphic plate that I felt that is actually, it could be revisited, this calligraphy, but in my understanding, and this is what I have done. This is a piece was exhibited with a group of artists and architects in Dilston Grove in London. And what is the magic about this piece? Actually, it's called the dark side of the unknown ray. The unknown ray is the X-ray. It has a clock in the middle, but the clock is stopped at 2011. And again, 2011 is the Syrian uprising. And this is what happened with my recent project. I had this project dealing with Syrian refugees, and I looked at the Syrian map, plotted the Syrian refugee locations around Syria, tried to match them with locations in London. So this installation, which is called Another Day Lost, and if you look at, I just would like to draw your attention to the number. That number relates to the number of days since the Syrian uprising. And in this exhibition, my introduction, I wrote in a very bold letters, lives are on hold and many are becoming citizens of a tent. And this is what I have done with this particular installation. I worked with very talented curator, Louisa Macmillan, and with many great helpers. Nuzumi is one of them. I think she is in the audience, helping with this wonderful event. And what we have done, we went to all of these locations and we installed these camps. The camps, of course, made out of recycled material, and there is the fence around the camp made out of these matches. So every day I burn one match, and of course the amount of matches relates to amount of days since the Syrian uprising. So I am going to show you very quickly now where this piece traveled around the world. So this is London, Hampstead, Goulburn Road, Getty Institute, St. James's Piccadilly Church, a refugee tent, and inside the refugee tent, I had a camp. I thought it's over. But actually, I was invited a few months later to exhibit it in a very interesting location in the top of a Navy ship at the time when many Syrian refugees could not make it to Lesbos, to Greece. So the idea of exhibiting it on the top of the ship was quite a very interesting location, contributed to the meaning of this piece, but totally different times or days if you look at it. Then invited to Trinity Wall Street Church in New York, again in a tent, Philadelphia, Dubai. Again, look at this scale. Suddenly this camp is not anymore a camp, it is a city. And look how many burned and unburned matches in this location. New York again, Cambridge, and Budapest. And look what happened to the tents. They start bleeding out of the tent. That was the final piece of, or the final location for this piece, Another Day Lost. It's difficult to finish a project. Always you are in search for a new meaning, new thoughts. I was thinking about looting, and a very difficult question for me. What is the future of my past? And that was really quite a difficult thing to deal with. And I started looking at possibilities. So I came across this figurine, which is tiny, tiny, small figurine. And what struck me is actually the title of this figurine. It's called Standing Figure, Syria. And I was thinking, what can I do with this beautiful, tiny, small figurine, the fragility of the female figure? So I thought, can I do this? A camera obscura images and called it Falling Figure, Syria. Or imagine if I do a 3D print out of it, take it to an airport and make an X-ray images of it. And it's called In Limbo Orphaned Figure, Syria. Imagine a Syrian artist, an antiquity, 3,000 years old, and in limbo, between one to another country. And of course, I couldn't achieve it. I couldn't do this X-ray machine image, and I hope one day I will be able to. But I came across totally different stories, and I came across this beautiful ships in the Fitzwilliam Museum. Look what happened in 300 BC, 400 BC. My country used to send to the sea, look what I have done with these pieces. I would like just to remind you of my uncle again. He used to transfer bombs to spoons. This is what I do with mud guards. So if you have a bicycle and you lose the mud guard, you know that I was after your mud guard. So I take these mud guards and I make out of them boats. And I just installed this piece in Cambridge, and it's called Dark Water Burning World, and it's going to be in collaboration with a British poet called Ruth Padel, who is working with Syrian refugees in Lesbos. And so she will be reading her poetry, and I will be exhibiting my mud guards. When she came to see me, she brought these beautiful, beautiful, very moving, very powerful images of these Syrian refugees that they never had the chance to make it to the shores of safety. So, when they arrived there, dead, with nothing on them but their pieces of clothing, but they need to be buried. What would you write on somebody's grave if you have no identity whatsoever? Of course you will write unknown, but what else you will write? So this is what I have done. This is a project I am just going to install in the Classical Archaeology Museum in Cambridge, and this is actually a piece of clothing dipped in plaster and written on them, unknown, girl, age 4, blue dress, and the date of burial. And the idea that it's going to be exhibited in the Classical Archaeology Museum against this magnificent bodies and idealized bodies, and this kind of is called lost. So um, the conversation between the old and the new. Now, I am going to finish my talk with these last two slides. I just went to the Penn Museum in Pennsylvania and I installed 7 pieces. I'm going to share with you these 2 slides of this exhibition, which I'm going to open in April. This one called Strike, and its performance for 1 hour, burning many matches. Global warming started in my action probably. But it could be easily, instead of Strike, it could be easily titled Erasure. And this is the last piece I would like to share with you. It's called Aleppo Soap. Aleppo in Syria is a famous city for many, many thousand things. One of them is soap. So I took this idea, Aleppo Soap, don't wash your hands. And this is actually a cry for you and the world not to forget about Syria. Thank you.